Hey everyone, it's me, Lawrence. You know, I've worked hard over the years to acquire an incredibly in-depth knowledge of games, and I'm probably the best editor-in-chief money can buy. This is great for me, but as a result, I demand an incredibly high salary from my employers, and let me be honest with you, Inside Gaming just can't foot the bill anymore. If only there were a way to take all the work and experience I've had and transfer it over into a new, unknown person and profit off of it, without having to actually pay me.
Hey gamers, it's me, Josh, an entirely new and different video games man. And today I want to talk to you about asset flipping. Not just those shitty Steam games either. There are a lot of AAA games that could be considered an asset flip, but for the most part, people really don't care about those. Well, unless the game sucks, like with, Fallout 76.
In fact, some of your favorite games probably include a whole bunch of assets from other games, which, that's kind of the point. A game can reuse assets in the right or the wrong way. If it's the right way, it's just a good game. If it's bad, it's an asset flip, AKA it's the cancer-killing gaming. This week anyway, I'm sure a woman's gonna go do something. But what's the actual difference? What makes reuse of assets acceptable in one situation and evidence that developers are greedy assholes that hate gamers in another? Well, that's what we're here to find out, so let's dig in. But before we get into the really good stuff, we should take a look at why asset flip has such a negative connotation in the first place. As it's typically used, the term is associated with garbage Steam games that use art, animations, and models purchased usually very cheaply from Unity. Basically, it's a quick workaround to the very expensive process of making all this content yourself. The quality of these assets isn't necessarily spectacular, but because making a game this way is relatively easy and cost-effective, Steam has naturally become a wasteland for these types of games. Some of these games are made by devs who are really trying to make a good game. It's a process that wouldn't be possible for them without using recycled resources, and fundamentally there is nothing wrong with that. Quite the opposite, in fact. It's legitimately fantastic that the cost of developing game assets can be removed as a barrier for aspiring game developers to get their ideas out into the world. Ideally, it's the perfect system. Good ideas shine through regardless of the glitz, glamour, or budget sunk into development. To give you an idea of how much these assets would cost to develop, Kim Swift, a developer on Portal, told Polygon that creating just one character can cost upwards of $80,000. Meanwhile, a pack of character models on Unity can be as low as $5. This astronomical difference in price has leveled the playing field for hobby developers and indie studios who just don't have the same budget as a giant AAA developer. So where's the problem? It sounds like win-win, right? Getting affordable tools in the hands of new creators can only be a good thing, right? Sadly, no. Because this is the internet and someone will find a way to make a sleazy buck off of anything. The proliferation of asset flips has to do with Steam's bizarre, confusing trading card economy. Trading cards can be crafted into badges, and badges increase your Steam ranking, which in turn increases the size of your friends list. It increases the chance of receiving a booster pack and showcase slots in your Steam profile. It's wild. Most importantly, your Steam level feeds your insatiable gamer ego that requires a steady diet of achievements and virtual medals to get you through your day. Like anything on Steam, there are a bunch of ways to game the system. Usually an asset flip game is cheaper than the value of its trading cards. This means you can sell the cards for more than the game was purchased for and actually make a profit on running or idling a game on Steam. Yes, it's 2019. And because the developer also gets a cut of trading card sales, they make more money too. Taking into account that these developers can just re-release the same game with a different title and mass upload them to Steam, there's actually some decent money to be made. Studios like Digital Homicide made all of their games this way before all of their games were taken off Steam. They actually tried to sue YouTuber Jim Sterling after he criticized them. Hey, that's a nice move, Digital Homicide. That'll sway public opinion in your favor. You would think you'd want to lie low once you find a nice little niche like that, but no, sue a YouTuber, that's a good idea. So Steam has taken a lot of steps to get rid of these games. They increased the cost to list a game and have removed a lot of asset flip games from their storefront. It's helped a little, but there's still plenty of what Steam calls garbage games. I mean, I think a lot of people call them that. It's also worth noting that these companies are not doing anything illegal. It's just kind of scummy, and it clutters up the Steam store, but no one's really gonna go to jail over it. Bear in mind, all of this money technically is coming from people who are just driving up their Steam profiles and willing to pay for cards to do it. So, theoretically, no one loses here, even though it's just annoying in the process. However, there is a side effect. Shady business practices and a perceived cheapness associated with this recycling assets has led to the asset flip derision. It makes sense, really. A weird digital gold rush produced throes and throes of carbon copy garbage games. It's only natural that you'd start to associate the Unity launcher with that experience. But, and this is where it starts to suck even more, a ton of classic games have been made reusing existing assets. Majora's Mask and Portal are both great examples. Majora's Mask used character models, items, and the same controls as Ocarina of Time. This recycling method of game development gave the producers more time to develop the story and still get the sequel out quickly, and hey, people loved Ocarina of Time. People are still writing about it, like a lot, like every week. It only made sense to make another game with the same engine with the same assets. And Portal probably wouldn't have even happened if not for the Half-Life 2 assets. It was a very risky project. The team was small and new to Valve. Using resources from Valve's biggest franchise was of course a huge financial advantage, but it also created an air of familiarity between the two games despite being vastly different in tone. Obviously, there's a big difference in intent here. Just because a studio used some models they had from a previous game doesn't mean they didn't also put a ton of love and care into it. These games are fully scripted, standalone games. They just happen to look a whole lot like the previous iteration. But the effort put into the game design gives those reused assets new life. And that brings us back to the bad side of it, something like Fallout 76. People were furious that the game was made in the same engine as Fallout 4. That by itself isn't a crime. When you have an engine, there's not really a need to reinvent it, except that Fallout 76 sucks. This led to the community crying asset flip, further tarnishing the game's already dismal reputation. This is especially ironic because almost the exact same thing happened with Fallout New Vegas, except no one got mad there. In fact, people really, really love that game, so that's a big ol' that's a thunk, that's a think there. Seems people don't actually care about how a game gets made or whether or not all its constituent assets are fresh and new. What's more important is intent, or perceived intent. In the case of Fallout 76, the community had already decided the game was a cheap cash grab before it even came out, so it made sense to criticize the reuse of Fallout 4's assets. If a game is well written, fun to play, and feels genuine, it's unlikely that anyone will mind. Even Counter-Strike, one of the most popular multiplayer games of all time, started its life as a fan-made mod for Half-Life. So the moral of the whole story is this, and I don't want to get too lectury about it, but before you crack your knuckles and drop some hot comments on Steam, consider what's motivating them. Are you actually mad that a game is reusing assets, or are you just mad that the game sucks? Once you've mulled over it a bit, then put on your cool dude sunglasses and light that son of a bitch on fire from the comments section. And if you're an amateur game dev, don't let the asset flip label get you down. Go and make video games, and we'll play them, because video games are fun. Just please don't make shitty clones to try and farm those precious Steam trading cards. It's not a viable economy. Take it from me, I invested in Utah teapots years ago and I've never been richer. That is a reference no one will get. So, okay, teapots, it's the asset that is in every 3D rendering. It's really quite an intelligent reference. Please just look it up and tell me I'm smart. Anyway, we'll catch you next time on Inside Gaming. Please don't be mad at me.
Been deep into Control, and surprising no one, we have some thoughts, as Lawrence alluded to, about reality and perception and the manifestations of our deepest and darkest thoughts. Fun stuff.
Yeah, so we'll give you a second to get mentally prepared. So Control is a game that centers heavily on corruption of the incorruptible, or at least the supposedly incorruptible.
Spaces, objects, functions, and people that we'd like to think of as rigidly unwavering.
Reality.
Yeah, exactly. Things that are and stay are. But Control